Welcome, everybody, to part three of Redtail's practice management series. And this particular current series has been, if you haven't watched the other two, it's been all built all around engaging clients and particularly the next generation. So this has been a series of three webinars, and we've done a different strategy, different action steps to help you retain current clients, engage your family, and streamline communications. This final webinar that we're going to be focusing on today is all about branding your practice in a fiduciary world. And personally speaking, I think branding, sub-branding, and having an identity is one of the most important things that too many offices are not doing. For those of you who know, this series is delivered by Maureen Wilkie. She's the president of Wilkie and Associates and the author of The Connected Advisor. And Maureen, I've been working with Maureen for a few years now. She's known for delivering dynamic advisor presentations and workshops at industry conferences, top producer meetings, and for firms like Morningstar, LPO, Redtail, obviously, and AXA. She's been around, featured in many industry publications, including Investment News, and she also delivers an industry education and training program for the Money Management Institute. So one thing you might not know is that her book, The Connected Advisor, gives financial professionals basically that competitive edge you're looking for, and it gives you the roadmap, the step-by-step instructions, the success stories for acquiring and retaining affluent clients. The program is built around 3 R's: deepening relationships, retaining top clients, and automating referrals. And we also have another special guest with us today, and that's David Gratke, who's the founder of Gratke Wealth and a user of both Redtail and FMX, to share with us some of his experience as well with branding. And so with all of that being said, Maureen, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hand the show off to you.
Thank you, Rick, and welcome everybody. We're very excited about today's session because it's something we hear about all the time, not just in our industry, but in any industry, how important the brand is and how to support the brand and how to make sure you're using great marketing materials around it and leveraging social media as well as digital media. So what we want to talk about today are some specific ideas and strategies to get you thinking about, are you positioned the way you want to be positioned? Are there changes that can be made? And then we're going to show you some ways you can really help to brand yourself by using high-level communications with your clients. So with that, let's get started. The brand is, as we know, really important to have a communication with your client. And on the next slide, you'll see we've got the branding, and it's your competitive edge. It's what sets you apart from the other financial professionals that are out there. And I don't want you to underestimate its importance. So what we've done here is we're going to talk a little bit about specific areas. We even have a branding template that we're going to share with you. And it's weaving in ideas that maybe some of the other industries are using to help you just think through, what do your clients think about you? The other thing I'm going to really strongly have you consider, and I've had many financial professionals do this, and it usually turns into more business for them, but they do, and this is the time of year to do it, a brief survey out to clients to find out if your services and your branding and the way you think you're perceived by your clients is really the most beneficial. I want you to think about Amazon. Amazon has just changed the whole way people shop. Amazon Prime, and we talk, Rick, as Rick shared, the whole multi-generational practice idea. This next generation, they shop completely different than, I'll say, my generation, this millennial generation. Amazon Prime, they get their packages in 1 to 2 days. They get exactly what they want, and it's easy to return it if they don't want it. But what it provides them is a great service to simplify their lives, especially if they're working or whatever is going on in their lives. Amazon has just changed the whole way that people shop. It's the people, the process, the service, and the products that they deliver. I also want you to think about Starbucks. Rick and I talked about this yesterday. Did you ever think that people would pay over $5 for a cup of coffee? If we went back 10 years ago, did anyone ever think that someone would pay that much? But look at the lines at the Starbucks. And I was just traveling last week. I was at O'Hare Airport for work, and there at the Starbucks were 2 long lines of people waiting for coffee. And down the way were, I think, a Dunkin' Donuts and another coffee shop and a McDonald's, all options to get their coffee. But there at Starbucks at over $5 a cup for some of the specialty coffees, with two long lines of people waiting for it, because Starbucks delivers much more than a drink. Obviously, it's tailored to specifically how you want it, but what they deliver is an experience, and it's a certain customer service level. It's the way they're greeted. So think about all that as we walk through the branding. What is it like for your clients from the minute they pull into your parking lot and are greeted at the front desk to meeting with you and staying on time and the follow up? What is that experience like? Is it like Starbucks, or is it more like drinking a cup of Folgers in the morning? I think everybody wants to be the Starbucks role. And I think the other area that we're hearing more and more about, and I have seen more advisors getting the IAF designation for fiduciary, is the whole fiduciary standards. Fiduciary is now a word that investors know, with the DOL fiduciary standards and all that took place. And I can just share from my own friends in my group that I know, they're all meeting with their advisors. They're having different conversations, and they all hear the word fiduciary from their advisors. So I just want you to think about, and I put this in here because I'm seeing more advisors. They have a rapidly growing base of financial professionals who are getting their AIF or AIFA designation, which weaves in the whole fiduciary. It's FI 360. I put it in here just so you'd have it for reference, but it might be something to think about, adding to your designations. They focus on responsibility, excellence, integrity, client service, collaboration, knowledge, and security. I know there are well over 10,000 financial professionals who have gotten this, but they've had a significant increase in the last year and a half. And I just put it in here in case you haven't become familiar with it. Another way to just show your clients you're meeting those fiduciary standards, and it's a certificate that you can put on the wall in your offices. So again, I wanted to share ideas to help you with your branding and putting yourself at that highest level and making sure clients know what it is that you deliver. Having a clear brand means you have communications. You position your practice. You tell the clients the value of your practice, and don't underestimate having a link to your LinkedIn or to your firm's website, all those key things on any emails that go out. I'm also seeing some advisors who are including their brief brochure attached to their communications. Maybe not all of them, but like twice a year, just to again remind clients what it is that you deliver to them. If you don't tell them, how are they going to know? And that includes delivering platinum services. These are probably services that you're already doing. Perhaps it's doing 2 in-person reviews a year or 4 in-person reviews a year. It may be client seminars that you host. Perhaps it's an event that you do that's tied to a charity to bring your clients closer to their charities. I have put a template together that we're going to email to you, and on it lists several ideas of those platinum services. Again, let clients know this is what I deliver, and include that wording of fiduciary. You know, we put you at the center. We're at the center with you. We're on your side of the table, and we want to make sure that we meet all the fiduciary responsibilities. Consider a communication plan that's turnkey for you. And this is where all the financial professionals that I've worked with, I feel the ones that have that streamlined turnkey service really are set apart from anyone trying to write their own communications. David Grecki is going to be joining us shortly, and he's written some of his own published works, but you've got to leverage someone else doing this because you need to spend your time in front of clients. We've seen the numbers. We talked about them in our previous webinars with that next generation. Over 90% are moving assets from their parents' financial professional. When the spouse takes over the assets, the high percentage that leave the working with the current financial professional, don't take a chance. That's where your time has to be spent. So looking at communications that are also compliant. So we want to definitely talk about that. The results, great client retention and referrals. And that's what this is all about, helping you not just retain current assets, but increase them and gain referrals from your best clients. Step 1 is having a fiduciary branding template. So on the branding template, and as I said, it's a branding template. You can pull the word, we'll email all the wording to you, but you can take this and use it on your website. You can use it as a brochure. I had one financial team, they really basically took this template, reworked it on their letterhead, and have it on display when individuals come into their offices, and they now use it as an attachment on their um, on any of their communications that go out. And again, not all of them, but like twice a year they'll send it out with emails just as a reminder. Here's what we bring to your practice. So it's really important to have that template and using some of the wording that works with fiduciary and the responsibilities that your team takes and who is your team and what do they bring to the table. So with that, some of those key branding items are your mission statement. Do you make sure that it's all about the client and not all about you? On the template that we'll send you, it'll give you a couple examples, but you want to make sure that it lets clients know you're on their side of the table, that this is all about them, and that you're looking to be that fiduciary that works closely with them. I also encourage having a team picture. And in the team picture, I'm seeing more and more of this where the advisors will include not just their staff or additional advisors in the practice or analysts, but they also invite maybe strategic alliances that they have with CFP, estate planning attorneys, and other individuals that help round out their practice and bring the best of the best to their clients. And so as you see, I've got partners on there. Be sure to talk about the process. And I'll give you two examples in the template. One might be the process for new clients, what you can expect, how many meetings to decide if it's the right fit for them to be a part of your practice, what you'll deliver to them, and then what your ongoing clients can expect. I've also seen, as far as the platform and the products or the investment solutions or the models that you use, this can be very high level and then it can drill deeper into that information. But the idea is, again, just reinforcing to clients, here is what you can expect from us. And we specialize in the retirement area or the rollover area. We specialize in when there's been a sudden money situation, which can happen if there's a death and the spouse takes over the children. Sudden money covers a lot of key areas, but put it in writing, keep it to bullets. And as you'll see from the template we provide you, it's not complicated. And then think about your services that you provide. And Dave's going to cover a couple ideas there, but the services are critical and having those touch points and communications. We did in a previous webinar, and I just put it here for a quick reminder, but include your client's attorneys. Maybe it's an annual insurance review. It might be a client appreciation charity event. I saw one advisor, he ties in with the Lieutenant Dan band, Gary Sinise's band, that plays at different perhaps memorial areas or different ties in with the armed forces, and he is a sponsor of that, and then he brings all his clients to that, and it's a really fun night. So think about that. Also, assisted living solutions, we covered that in a previous webinar, but making sure your clients know that you can be the one to come to if they have questions around it, or to even proactively provide ideas for them on how this would work. There's a couple of great workbooks out there on that. And then think about client advisory boards. We'll go deeper on these at other webinars, but a client advisor, client counsel is a great way to hear feedback from your clients on what they like and what they don't like about your practice. I can share with you one advisor. She works with the pharmaceutical industry in Northern Illinois, and she brought her top clients together. She thought they liked all the hard copy information that she was sending to them. And what they told her is they're so busy, they really prefer it in email. And that was a great hearing for her because she was putting all this work into hard copy, thinking it differentiated it from her, but her clients didn't like it. And just thinking about website and LinkedIn content, your front lobby visuals, firm brochure and phone conversations, email and firm taglines, and having that 12-month client communications calendar. We did show you how easy it is in our last webinar, and you can go back to that, doing that 12-month client communications calendar, having those touches segmenting clients, and then you can just plug in some of the I like the FMX solutions for several reasons. They've got communications for next gen, they've got communications for women, they've got trending now, which you can set up so that your clients get that once a week. Again, it lets you put the whole package together. I'm not going to say it totally doesn't require your time, but the planning's in place, the communications are in place. Now you can focus on meeting with clients. Very important in branding your practice. If you say you're going to deliver communications, this makes it easy to do it. And as I mentioned, this is the 12-month client communications calendar. So we've got it all set up, and it's got the different communications, and that's what you want to do. I'd like to now turn it over to Dave. He's going to share with you his Redtail success story. Dave Gracke is a financial professional in Portland, Oregon. He's an RIA. He uses the Redtail CRM system. But Dave was on one of our earlier webinars, and he wants to just share with you some of the ways he's really branded his practice. And I took a look at his LinkedIn. I looked at his website. I looked at how he has his signature on all of his communications. It's very clear. It's very much about the client, and I'd like to now turn it over to Dave.
Maureen, thank you for that. Greetings, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. Yes, Dave Gracke here of Gracke Wealth LLC. We're a state-registered RIA located in the western suburbs of Portland, Oregon, just down the street from some companies you may have heard of, Nike and Intel. Created the firm back in 1998. After working for many years, or I should say decades actually, wirehouses in Portland, Oregon, regional broker-dealers, and even a bank investment department, became an RIA February of 2008, which, as you'll recall, was an interesting time. 6 months later, we had an event called Lehman Brothers. So that was an interesting time to become an RIA. If you will, fast forward to 2012, that's when we began our rebranding efforts. Essentially, it was looking back saying, hey, we had initially created a brand in the 1990s and early 2000s. Something I do personally is I spend a lot of time in the outdoors, and it seemed that that messaging should spill over, be conveyed in our professional messaging, which it has for decades. So our old 90s work was well overdue for an update. The messaging itself was stale. The web design was way behind what was happening. So during this rebranding process, we created a new tagline, simply plan well, retire happy. It's simple but direct, and you can see it on the screen. It's right below our logo of Gracke Wealth there. All this being said, our branding efforts are an ongoing activity. In fact, first half of next year, we've got to do some major website updates to be more capable addressing the mobile device marketplace. From what I've read, 50%, over 50% of web traffic's on a mobile device, and anecdotally, I see that when I walk into shopping malls and grocery stores. In our continued effort to maintain and improve our brand, we're just like you. We attend these practice management webinars like the one we're all on today. And if, as Maureen said, it was one of these webinars not too long ago that I too learned the FMX story. And upon seeing what FMX had to offer, I knew that we need to hire them as one of our partners. What's interesting, though, is we had already identified that our former e-newsletter platform was in need of replacement. Kind of interesting how serendipitously FMX came along and solved the problem. Our old system just didn't play well with social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. FMX just totally remedied that, so we don't have to stress or worry about that. As Maureen said, I do some writing, so quote unquote self-published to an extent, create some original content from time to time. But quite frankly, there's just not enough time for me to sit in my favorite coffee shop with a laptop and belt out another newsletter. So may I simply say, enter FMX. I'd come across one of FMX's press releases from March of this year regarding something we'll touch about in a second, but they're known as the largest content library for advisors, so nice team member to have. So what was interesting for me is in either one of the webinars or maybe it was a follow-up session talking to the folks at FMX, I learned that I could use my own original content inside the FMX platform, having access to the dashboard and the tracking systems, again, not only for our own work, but of course the entire FMX catalog of rich topics and articles. So really that's kind of what, if you will, sealed the deal for me when I said, oh, I don't have to have multiple systems, because I really liked what I saw at FMX, given their huge catalog of articles, which I'll tell you in a little bit how one anecdotally came to the rescue for me, if you will. But knowing that I could continue to get our message out there, our branding in a simplified solution to our readers, that's what this story is all about. I want to segue for a second, kind of sharing a technical observation. The goal of these webinars is not to be, tech support and how to use FMX, but once working with FMX, they of course bolt up directly to Redtail, so all that data is being shared. But in that process, I realized that we no longer had to do some duplicative workflows, basically maintain separate lists of email addresses and contact records, because all that's inside of the CRM. So now we don't, if we have a new email address we have to bring into the system or change one, we don't have to go to the CRM and change and then remember and remind ourselves to go off to our other portal. It's all done inside of the CRM database. So that's really handy. And also might add, if you have contacts that are not currently inside of Redtail and you're a Redtail user, you may already know this, but they have a process that will allow you to upload those contacts into the CRM. They'll send you an Excel spreadsheet with the dedicated formatting. So pretty simple. But let me give you an example. Let's say you want to market to a Gen X crowd, Gen X crowd here. So I'll tell you how we had to do it in our old system. First go into the Redtail database, no problem, do a search, age greater than, less than, save it. Then I'd have to export that data from Redtail into an Excel spreadsheet, and then turn around and import it into the old newsletter system, create a list, and then create the newsletter and then send. Now it's a lot different, it's a lot more streamlined. Go into Redtail again, create the search, easy enough. Then tag that group. In this case, just call it Gen-X or something like that. The tag group already exists. You don't have to create it, but you add members to that tag group, and then hop over to FMX, select that tag group and the article you want to send, and you're done. Now, just one little, it's not a caveat, but tech tip. If you've just created a tag group in Redtail, you do have to resync the two databases so FMX can see the new tag group. No big deal. You have to do that all the time. But that's easy. And what's interesting is over time, I've read surveys that say clients want more contact. And, like I said, I can't sit in a coffee shop and create more and more newsletters. I'd have to go back to school and become a journalist instead of a finance major. So one thing we were talking about the other day, prep for this webinar, was how to additional touch points, and not to spend too much time on it. We use an account aggregation tool, and it sends out a weekly update. And so what it allows us to do is be in front of that household on a weekly basis. And at first I thought, oh boy, that's too many touch points. But used properly, a client might say, hey, I see my account moving in a direction. It just allows us to get in front of the asset allocation conversation. And we do use Riskalyze. So it allows us to bring that conversation back to the household and say, do we have the right allocation? And now that we have FMX on board, we're going to be able to increase those touch points more frequently. And thinking about things that I've read in the past years ago, I want to say I read something that said, as advisors, we need to touch clients at least 20 times a year. Some reason 21 sticks in my head, and this was all pre-fintech, right? Financial technology. So, it was monthly statement, face-to-face meetings, birthday card, et cetera. So with us now, I can easily say we touch all our clients in excess of 60 times per year. Not to get lost in the weeds here, but it looks something like this. Count aggregation, 52 times a year. Count statements, between 4 and 12 times. We use a couple different custodians. Some do quarterly, some do monthly statements. Of course, a birthday card. We use Riskalyze, so there's 3 to 5 times a year touch point with the check-in feature. We do write newsletters, but I'll tell you it's 4 to 8 times a year. We don't want to be spamming our clients. And then with FMX, I'm going to tell you it's to be determined, because it is so easy to create quality content and get it out to the client easily. I want to be guarded and judicious in how I use the portal. And I might even consider doing a survey asking clients about their preferences on topics, their frequency of delivery, and then creating new tag groups accordingly. last thing I want to do is hit them up so much that they kind of just tune out, unsubscribe, don't read our work. Week or two ago, having lunch with a client, recently retired from Intel, and somehow I mentioned the word FANG, or the acronym FANG, as the FANG stocks. We all know them in the industry. And he goes, "Wait, what did you say?" I said FAANG, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. And he goes, "What's that?" And so I went on to say, and I said, "Oh yeah, it's just these 5 companies or so that really dominate the market movements and the indices." And I said, "Hey, I've got an article on it. Would you like to see?" And he goes, "Yeah, I would." So I went back to the office after lunch, and I'd already found that article inside of FMX. And when you find articles you like, you can save them as favorites. And it was in the favorite list, so I just grabbed it. And as you know from previous webinars, from these Redtail webinars, you can create a little custom message. So I just said, "Hey, Bob, here's that article I said talked about on FANGs over lunch. Let me know if you have any questions." So the fact that you can just go one-to-one with a client, or you can do a bulk distribution to many people, I really think that's fantastic. And then lastly, I learned that FMX bought a company last March, hence the press release I was referring to, a company called Advice IQ. It was founded by a former Forbes magazine editor, and it helped. Advice IQ's business model was to help advisors get their published works out into the media. And I'm pleased to say that they had helped us get our works out into Morningstar.com, CNBC, NASDAQ, and others. And it wasn't until yesterday, actually, that I learned that FMX bought Advice IQ. And my understanding is that rich catalog of content is coming into FMX. So it's great to see that they're, not sitting on their laurels. They're looking at increasing content all the time. Maureen, I think that's about all I have to share. If there's anything else you want me to cover or something I forgot, glad to. And if not, I'd just like to thank everybody for listening.
David, thank you for joining us. And I think the real key here is just those touch points that you've got to your clients and how you've done it. That's critical in branding your practice. And it's very important from that fiduciary standpoint, because you're looking at making sure they're getting those communications, the statements, the Riskalyze, in your case, use Riskalyze, so that their updates, and then weaving in the newsletters and key industry communications. So you make it all about your clients. I think it's fantastic. So thank you. What I'd like to do now, you're welcome too. I'd like to turn over to Rick Williamson. Rick's going to just quickly walk through. I know we did this on the other webinars, but we have quite a few new people on this one as well. He's just going to take a minute and walk through the steps of ways you can set up these communications, and you can choose your communications. And as David shared, FMX has a very deep bench of communications, constantly updating them, a superb team of not just writers, but industry knowledge experts. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rick and have him walk you through this.
Thanks, Maureen. David, thank you so much for all of that as well. I think the key word and I think the key solution that FMX provides, and again, I'm from Redtail. I don't really have any skin in the game in terms of how FMX does. I really like what they do, and they've been a great partner with us. But number one, it's the ease of use, the ease of integration, and number two, the key word is content. I think everybody that I've run into wants to create more content. They want to provide more content, but it's difficult. It's difficult to be an advisor and a content creator, and that's where FMX comes in, not only creating the content for you, but also giving you the freedom, as you said, Dave, to create your own if you'd like. And I think having that option in there is really, really helpful. And as you said, the integration between the two is very easy, really, really streamlined in terms of reducing any type of duplicate methods or anything like that. And essentially going through kind of how Dave does it, you start in Redtail by building your groups out. You run a search for people with like-minded or shared interests, categories, keywords, whatever they may be, and you create a tag group for them. You turn them into a tag group, and this is what the list of tag groups looks like in Redtail. And then from there, once you have that tag group, then you have the ability to go into FMX, and you have options. You can either sync every contact indiscriminately, you just get everyone in there all at once. But what I like is the ability to sync them via those tag groups, because once you select that option, you get a list of the tag groups that we just saw back in Redtail. This is an identical list, and then you can pick and choose which tag groups you want to sync over. And then that information is going to sync over and it's going to allow you to actually utilize that information, those lists of clients inside of Redtail. Probably my favorite part about this sync is that it actually gives them that tag in FMX as well. All too often is there an integration that syncs clients over, but it doesn't sync, what made them all a group. And in this case, it keeps that grouping together so that instead of syncing 39 clients from one group and 50 from another, and then all of a sudden I have almost 100 clients and I don't know who's who, it brings over that information so that I can see that, oh, these clients were a part of this tag group. And I think that that's really, really valuable. And then at that point, not only is the information going to sync over the emails and the phone numbers and all of that, but a lot of other information is going to sync over as well, including Redtail activities and notes. You're actually going to see information about that client that you don't typically see in other integrations. You see those activities and notes. You have the ability for FMX to post a note inside of Redtail when something is sent, or you can just do a bulk note entry inside of Redtail. That type of information and that type of uh, data sharing, I think, is really valuable when you take the grouping and the client management part of Redtail, the organization, the segmentation, and then you marry that with the content of FMX. So you have your groups in Redtail. I want to be able to send them out this really great content. And not only is it, like Maureen said, not only are they really great writers of content, but they're really great thought leaders and really great just in terms of financial professionals and financial perspectives. And then, of course, me being a young millennial whippersnapper myself, the stuff that they put together is good looking. It's clean, it's modern, and that's something that I appreciate. So whether we're talking about the next gen, whether we're talking about wealth transfer, or whether we're talking about other groups as well, I think there's something for everybody in terms of what you can send out to your clients, to your groups from FMX. It's just a little bit of what we talked about in terms of economic updates, in terms of back to school shopping lists, and then being able to actually put in your information, actually brand it with your info, your picture, your logo, and even go in and put in, maybe you have a pre-generated article, you still have the ability to go and put in your own first paragraph intro if you'd like. And that kind of thing, that type of personalization really helps not only brand your practice, but it helps convey the experience. Maureen talked about this earlier, the experience between, buying a cup of Folgers versus Starbucks. And Maureen, I'm actually going to disagree with you for a second here because I think that while most people, especially young people, want the Starbucks experience, I think that there's still a very large amount of people who want that Folgers experience. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup, and that's what FMX provides. It allows you to designate who wants the Starbucks experience, who wants the Folgers experience, and you can give it to them at the same time. And so that's, I think, really, really valuable because as much as people like Starbucks, as much as people like Amazon, and as much as people, I mean, heck, I love Starbucks and Amazon. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about other people who like to go against the grain, who like to do things differently. This allows you to do it. And so obviously I'm a big fan of what they do. But Maureen, I want to give it back to you so that you can wrap this up for us.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rick. And that was a great analogy. So the whole idea of branding your practice in a fiduciary world is that you're thinking about the client, you're on their side of the table, and you're looking at everything that's important. And we know all about fees and things like that, but it's important to have those other, as we said, platinum services. And that's what we've tried to give you today. We will email you the branding template with ideas around the mission statement, the process, the platform, ideas around platinum services that you can pull from. But don't underestimate the power of telling clients what it is that you're going to deliver and then delivering on it. And so having regular communications is critical. and clients will pay for that. They want to know what's going on. So we hope we've given you some specific strategies today. We've definitely given you the tools. We'll send the templates. And with that said, Rick, I think we are ready to wrap it. This is all about taking your practice to the next level.
Very much so, yes. And so I do want to mention that everybody on this call, they do have the ability to get in and try a trial of FMX, and they do get a discounted price. This is something that you can go in, you get $100 off. But I believe the regular cost of FMX is $399, and I believe this drops down to $299. But take advantage of this promo code. You can go right there, fmxdirect.com/redtail100, and everybody has the opportunity to do that. But Maureen, just to wrap this up, I want to thank you for your time today. And Dave, I want to thank you for your time. I think it was really valuable. I really appreciated hearing what you had to say. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.